Hello everyone, it's Dr. Manjari Nadkarni, Ayurvedic MD, registered holistic nutritionist, back today with another amazing video. So today I'm trying something even more new. This is fun. So today I'm going live on my Facebook as well as Instagram at the same time. So if you're not sure where I'm looking, I might be looking at my Instagram screen or I might be looking at my Facebook and YouTube screen. This is an extremely important topic we're going to discuss today. We're going to talk about thyroid, and we're talking about different symptoms that can manifest when your thyroid goes out of balance. So, for everyone who's watching this, you'll be able to catch the replay either on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube. So, I have it in all places, and uh, this has been a bit challenging, but it's been fun. So thank you all for those who are watching live. I can see Alicia on Instagram. I can see Esme is here. I can see Uttamji is here. Right. So if you are watching this live, just say a quick hi so I know you're live. And I can see quite a few people logged on to our Facebook. If you are watching this as a replay, you can put a hashtag replay. Again, at any point of time, if you have any questions for me, except for personalized health recommendations or recommendations, I can definitely answer your questions, which are general in case. So for sure, hi, I can see Drami Ayur Wellness as well. Dr. Ami, okay, sorry. I read it the wrong way. Hi, Dr. Ami. Hello, Isha. Hi, Ushaji. Nice to see you all. So let's get started. Esme is here as well. I hope I'm getting your name right, because a lot of people butcher my name. So I'm just hoping that I don't um, mess your name. And Ontario Shanti Mission Canada, that's wonderful. So thank you all for watching this live. And let's talk about thyroid gland. So why are we discussing thyroid gland? Because it's one of the most important glands, which is governs a lot of other functions in our body. So it's an endocrine gland. So endocrine glands are typically glands that will secrete hormones, but the target action of the hormones is everywhere, right? So they're kind of going to be everywhere and have various metabolic functions. So the thyroid gland is actually situated just below your Adam's apple or larynx, and it has two lobes on either side. And so that's kind of the importance, the location. And that's why sometimes when it swells up, you can see an object moving. I'm not talking about Adam's apple in guys, but in women you can see when they're swallowing something, or in certain cases you can see goiter. If your thyroid gland is not functioning well, it's trying to secrete a lot of hormones, or it's under functioning, then you end up with a swelling of thyroid gland. So that's what it means. So thyroid gland, what does it exactly do? So it produces hormones that regulate your body's metabolic rate, right? It's extremely important for our body's metabolic activity, which also controls heart rate, your muscle, your digestive function, brain development, bone maintenance. So it's necessary for a lot of different factors, right? And typically, most people have known the connection of iodine with iodine or iodine, however you like to call it, with thyroid, right? So thyroid hormones need iodine from the diet to be able to produce well, for the hormone production, right? So there are different factors when we talk about thyroid. So the two main thyroid hormones we talk about are T4 and T3, right? I'm not going to bore you with like the big names. It's thyroxine is T4, right? Or tetraiodothyronine. And T3, you can just call it T3, it's triiodothyronine, right? And they're typically known as thyroid hormones. So the gland produces just 20% of the active T3 and 80% of T4, which is then converted into T3, right? And once secreted, specific enzymes in other tissues like liver and kidneys can help transform T4 into T3, right? And also, there are other hormone producing cells within the thyroid, which are known as C cells. So these produce calcitonin, which helps maintain the levels of your calcium as well as phosphate, right? Which is important for bone and health maintenance. So a lot of the times, people ask me that what's happening with my thyroid, or what kind of symptoms I'm having, or why my thyroid is getting out of balance. So we're going to talk about this today. So today I'm just going to talk generally about thyroid, and I'll be describing different symptoms of thyroid, right? And most people, like most women in my practice that I see, have um, an abnormal, like not a normal functioning thyroid. So either it's lowered in function, which is extremely common, or it can like hyperfunction as well. So we're going to discuss those two conditions a little bit today based on symptoms. Um, okay, I can see a few more people join in, so I'm going to say a quick hi. And hi, Iti, nice to see you. I know your parents mentioned that you're watching this live, so thank you for watching live. Hi, Aparna. Thanks so much for watching this live. So going back to thyroid, we've talked about, what does it do? So let's talk about some conditions where we know our thyroid is not functioning well, right? So there are different kinds of thyroid conditions that a person could have. A lot of the times, women are diagnosed with hypothyroidism. That's also common. There are also a lot of men who have thyroid conditions, right? So this is a big myth that I see in my practice, that we don't always look at thyroid issues in men, but they can actually affect any gender, right? They can also affect you at different life stages. And if a child is born with a thyroid condition, the child cannot survive easily, right? If it's a severe condition, that it could actually threaten the life of the child. So thyroid is extremely important, and thyroid is a gland that's important for your overall well-being, right? So we're not just talking about weight gain or weight management. We're not just talking about your bone health. We're talking about everything, right? So whether it's your emotional health or your mental health, your focus, your memory, there are different aspects of your health. They all depend on thyroid, right? Also your emotions. So lots of different factors do depend on the health of your thyroid, and this is one thing that can easily go out of balance. Now the causes of your thyroid going out of balance and a little bit detail of the conditions, we're going to discuss it in part 2, right? I've tried to keep this short and sweet, so we won't spend a lot of time trying to bundle up lots of information in like a small thing, but we'll be talking about you know um, the main causes today, right? Or the main symptoms today. So hi Gifty, nice to see you. Hello Ismay. So she mentions that she has a long standing Hashimoto's thyroiditis. It is very common as well. So we will be talking, like, I know Esme signed up for one of my courses, so we're going to have a one-on-one soon, and I can definitely address your condition and we can discuss a lot more as well. Of the main conditions where we talk about thyroid, you can divide it into two categories, right? So one is where the function decreases, known as hypothyroidism, and the other one is where the function increases, like you're either overproducing thyroid hormones, where there's overactivity of the thyroid, right? And that's hyperthyroidism. And when you're not producing sufficient hormones, right? Or your hormones may seem normal on the blood test that you've done, but your symptoms show that you are suffering from hypothyroid. And this is also something that's extremely common. So you might have, when we look at the thyroid numbers, right? So sometimes thyroid levels are considered to be normal. Our TSH levels can be anywhere from 0.5 to 4, or 0.5 to 5 are considered to be normal by most practitioners. But you could still have a lot of symptoms where you are finding some experiencing different symptoms related to hyper or hypothyroid, right? So that's something which is important to know. So even though your numbers are perfect, you might still be suffering. If your symptoms haven't gone away, then you are still suffering from thyroid condition, and your thyroid is not balanced, right? So that's what we are going to discuss, whether it's balanced or not, and what are some symptoms. So we talked about hyperfunctioning, like overfunctioning of thyroid. We've discussed a little bit of hypofunctioning, or thyroid not functioning as well. And then there are also different conditions where itis is anything to do with inflammation. So when we talk about Hashimoto's thyroiditis, so there can be inflammation of the thyroid gland that could lead to abnormal function, right? So inflammation can cause hypofunction, Inflammation can also cause it to hyperfunction, right? A lot of the times there's also an autoimmune component. So when we talk about Hashimoto's, right, it typically has an autoimmune component where your own body is attacking its own cells, right? So that's something that's important to know. So when we do protocols or when we work with clients or patients having thyroid conditions of an autoimmune nature, the treatment modalities are going to be different. The protocols that are followed are going to be different, right? And it is extremely important for everyone to balance their thyroid, because your hormones all work together, right? Your stress hormones, your thyroid hormones, even your ovarian hormones, like all your hormones are somehow well connected in the body. They are not an isolated mechanism, right? So if you have had issues with your stress glands for a long time, chances are your thyroid could go out of balance. If you've had issues with your thyroid for a long time, chances are your stress glands will go out of balance to support it, right? Or get triggered. So these are complex mechanisms occurring in the body, right? And then there are also thyroid nodules. There can be cancer, just like any other organ. Thyroid could also be impacted by cancer, but we are not going to discuss those conditions because those are some severe conditions. So we'll be talking about just the most general conditions that we see, right? So let's get started and let's talk about some signs. So first, I'll be talking about the signs of low functioning thyroid, right? Or hypothyroidism. So hypo means low, right? So either it's that you have enough T4, but it's not getting converted into T3, or your thyroid stimulating hormone is not stimulating your gland to actually produce thyroid hormones. So these are a few things that could happen when we are talking about thyroid, right? So let's talk about the hypofunctioning or the underfunctioning of thyroid. Hi Swati, nice to see you. So again, those who are joining me live, a quick heads up that Swati is joining us this Saturday for summer skincare with Ayurveda. All you have to do is join my Facebook group, Ayurveda for Health and Happiness, and we'll have a nice interview with her going back to hypothyroidism. Okay, so a few, the most common symptom, the most common complaint that I often get from my clients is I'm gaining weight. And no matter what I try, no matter how many diets I've tried, no matter, if I starve myself, I just cannot seem to lose weight, right? So this is one of the most common issues that a lot of women complain, like I'm trying everything, but my metabolism has really slowed down and I cannot seem to lose any weight, right? So that shows that you could be having hypothyroidism. Forgetfulness, if you get into a room and you're not sure why you went there, or if you're starting to forget names, right? One thing is you could be extremely distracted, but because this could also show up as a sign of low functioning thyroid, right? And usually if you have a couple of symptoms tied in together, you could be having a low functioning thyroid. So when we talk about forgetfulness or feeling cold or cold intolerance, so if your hands and feet are extremely cold all the time, right? So even in the summertime, if you're needing to wear sweaters, or if you're wearing socks at home without turning the AC on, or if you need a cardigan to just get out, when it's really warm, like 34 degrees, but you still feel really cold in your hands or feet, you could have thyroid issues. Depression, extreme fatigue. So if you're extremely tired and you have no idea why you're this tired, it could be a sign of thyroid, right? So I'm talking about certain symptoms. If you have one or two, doesn't always mean that you're having issues with thyroid, but it's always good to get it checked, right? Having dry skin is a good sign that you have issues, your thyroid is out of balance. Constipated, so if you're having enough fiber, if you're drinking lots of water but you're constipated, could also mean your thyroid is out of balance. Loss of ambition, right? If you don't feel any motivation, if you feel extremely lethargic and fatigued, and mentally there's this inertia which you can't seem to shake up, right? You don't have any ambition, you're not having any motivation, that could also show up as thyroid. If your hair suddenly starts becoming dry or coarse, right, that could be a sign your thyroid is out of balance or not functioning well. Muscle cramps, any stiffness in the body, excess joint pain is also a sign that your thyroid could be under functioning. Another one is loss of outer third of eyebrow. So if you look at this place, right, if you start losing hair from here, that shows that you could have issues with your thyroid gland. So any of you have any of the symptoms that I've talked about? Have you seen any symptoms within yourself from what I'm describing? Or do any of you feel that your thyroid is hypofunctioning? It's not functioning as well. So please, you can, post it in the comments. Painful menstruation. So if you're having heavy menstruation, extremely heavy, that could be because of, your thyroid not functioning well. And this is extremely important in women of reproductive years. So if your thyroid is off balance, you could undergo or suffer from multiple miscarriages, right? So if you are miscarrying and you're not sure what's happening, it's a good time to get your thyroid checked, right? So if you're struggling with infertility, if you have muscle aches, if you have a puffy face on waking up, right? Or if your heartbeat has become really slow, if your nails are getting chipped easily, you have like dry coarse hair, but your nails are also getting chipped pretty easily, it could be a sign that your thyroid is not functioning well. So Tamji is saying cold feet only. Sometimes coldness of the extremities could also be a sign of circulation not being as well. But a lot of the times, if you have a bunch of symptoms together, right, especially like mental fatigue, mental overwhelm, memory issues, lack of focus, lack of motivation, then it could point towards your thyroid, right? So these are a few signs and symptoms of an under-functioning thyroid. Now let's talk about a hyper-functioning thyroid. Now, hyper-functioning thyroid is when your thyroid is overproducing the hormones, right? And those hormones are increasing your metabolism. So what ends up happening is you lose weight, and no matter what you do, you cannot put the weight on. So you're eating like 24/7, you're eating heavy foods, but you cannot gain any weight. And you start losing a lot of muscle mass, you start losing a lot of weight because your thyroid is, which governs your metabolism, is over functioning, and it's raising your metabolism, right? So that's why you could suffer from weight loss. You could have palpitations, like your heartbeat, suddenly becomes like really strong and you can hear it, and it increases, or it fastens. So that could be palpitations. You could have anxiety. A lot of the times your eyes start bulging in the socket and you cannot just shut your eyes down that easily. You could have tremors. You could have irritability. Infrequent menstrual periods, right? So your menses might subside or just be irregular. You might still be fatigued, because you have a heightened metabolism, but you could still experience a lot of fatigue. And here you start becoming heat intolerant, right? You have increased appetite. Again, you get a lot of hair fall. Your gland might be increased in size, right? You could sweat a lot. You could also have diarrhea or frequent bowel movements. Again, with over-functioning thyroid, you could also suffer from infertility. You will have warm, moist palms, right? And again, insomnia, muscle weakness, nervousness. So these are some signs that your thyroid is out of balance, but it's hyper functioning, right? So these are a few things we discussed: the hyper functioning one, and we discussed the hypofunctioning one. So does anybody have symptoms of a hyper functioning thyroid? Hashimoto's, we'll talk about it in a separate video itself, right? So today I just wanted to keep it a little bit simple and just talk about, what thyroid does, what are some common conditions or common symptoms of thyroid. And we'll be discussing the conditions, step by step in the next video. Right? So a few things, the one thing, if anybody here is having issues with your thyroid, you can go to your family doctor and definitely get tested, right? So ideally, what you can do is go to your doctor, get tested, but ask for the whole thyroid panel. You can also find reverse T3, right? So in certain cases, they'll do lots of different panels, and they'll do T3, T4, they'll do TSH, they'll do the whole panel. So sometimes TSH is not just going to give you an accurate amount or accurate idea of how your thyroid is functioning. A lot of the times in my practice, I see that people have, normal numbers, but they're suffering from all these signs and symptoms of having a hypofunctioning or a hyperfunctioning thyroid, right? So these are all the symptoms. So the one thing that I use in my practice, or I really like to work with, is known as the basal body temperature, right? And because your thyroid also governs your body temperature, this can give you a lot of valuable information regarding how your thyroid is functioning. So what you have to do is you have to track your basal body temperature for at least 5 days, which can help you get a better idea, right? So if your body temperature is increased extremely, I'm just trying to see if I can find a link somewhere which I can share with you, right? So you can try, when you, as soon as you wake up, try to take the thermometer and put it in your armpit for at least 5 minutes. Or you can also use oral temperature, right? So oral temperature is different than armpit temperature. There's always like a 1 degree difference. And when you take this temperature, you take the first reading for 5 minutes and you record it, right? And then just move minimally, right? And when you move minimally, so you're not really increasing a lot of your body temperature, but after 5-10 minutes you can record the second number. And try to avoid this data collection between the 19 to 22 days, post ovulation. Try not to do um, any kind of recording, because it might give you a wrong reading. But this consecutive recording for 5 days will give you a good idea of what your temperature is and if you're hypothyroid or hyperthyroid, right? So normal body temperature, normal resting body temperature, when we talk about Fahrenheit, is 97.8 to 98.2, right? So if you consistently have a lowered body temperature, right, you could be hypothyroid, right? And if you have a consistently higher body temperature, more than 98.2, it could be that you are hypothyroid. Now, this is not a confirmed diagnosis, but this gives a lot of valuable information, right? And if you're going through highs and lows constantly, so if your results are mixed, sometimes it's high, sometimes it's low, what it indicates is your stress glands or adrenals are stressed out, right? Because your stress glands and adrenals are linked together. So if your numbers are all over the map, then we can get an idea that your stress glands are actually fired up, right? And they're not functioning well, and that could be creating the whole scene where it's high and low, right? So I'm just gonna yeah, so that's where I end my video for today. There are lots of different ways to test it. Ideally, start working with a practitioner. Thyroid is something that is a pretty complex gland. It is not as easy, right? So a lot of the times, I've seen my clients take pills and they've been taking pills for years, but they're still suffering from symptoms. And because it's a gland that affects your well-being, right, your mental, emotional, physical, like all aspects of your well-being, it's always good to start working with somebody who is trained to guide you, work with thyroid. A lot of the times, with my clients, I also check for stress hormones, right? So is your stress hormones, are they out of balance, and are they creating a lot of issues, right? So those are a few things you can definitely see. But if you have long-term chronic issues with your thyroid, if you're taking medication, if you're still not seeing any benefit, try to work with someone, because that's when you're getting the best care, right? And you're really working with your thyroid, rather than just taking a pill and trying to sugarcoat or coat the symptoms, right? Because you're still having the symptoms, and even taking the pill might not work for you all the time. So I'm going to look at a few questions. I don't have a lot of questions on Instagram. I'm just going to say a quick hi to everyone who's joined in. And I have a few questions here with Esme. She's saying that chilly hands and feet, no outer eyebrows, low voice, memory issues, a little bit vague pains in the joints from ligaments and tendons, not the bones. Okay. Thin air that was formed. Okay. Formerly thick and healthy. Yeah, so that could be because you mentioned, you have Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So these are commonly symptoms that you're finding because of the thyroid not functioning well, right? And even when you start to normalize your thyroid, it does take time for your hair to grow nice and thick, but it can definitely be done, right? So 100% it can be done. So Gifty is saying TSH is 9, can't gain weight and observe hair loss. Yeah, so you will have to, like, I can't really talk about exact remedies what to do, right? So because even in the videos that I discussed, I will be discussing lots of causes across the board, that are common, but each individual could have certain foods. We're going to talk about foods as well. A simple example when we talk about thyroid hormones is, cruciferous vegetables, right? So when we talk about cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, kale, right? So even these vegetables can inhibit your thyroid function. So if you are eating lots of kale salad, which everybody perceives to be healthy, but if you're having a raw salad, chances are, if you are someone who's sensitive, or if your thyroid is extremely sensitive, that could create a condition of hypothyroid in you, right? For somebody else, it could be the fluorine that's coming in from their water, right? So everybody could have, something that's impacting their thyroid, but the causes could be different. So Gifty, if you want, just message me and we can set up a 15-minute free consultation. We can always see, if we can work together. If you have any more questions about how I work with Ayurveda, I would be more than happy to talk about it. It is saying that if hypothyroid is managed using meds, will the basal body temperature still show that you're hypo? It shouldn't, right? So if you're taking medications for hypothyroid, if you don't have any symptoms of hypothyroid, then the medication is working for you, right? Or like if you don't have any symptoms, but you might try the temperature and see. So if you're seeing a consistently lowered body temperature, if you're still getting cold hands and feet, then even with the medication that you're taking, your thyroid is not functioning too well, right? So maybe the conversion is not happening, or there could be multiple causes why, even though you're taking medication, there could be more inflammation in your body. And the test numbers show that they are within normal, but your thyroid hormones are still not being able to act in the body, right? So that could be one thing. So if you have symptoms, right, with medication, then it's the time to go back to your lifestyle and diet and really figure out what's wrong, right? If you are feeling completely fine, because sometimes I'm not like anti medication, right? So sometimes when you take a medicine, 100% could be a modern medicine, and if you are getting that relief, then it's working for you, right? But then there are also many times where it's not working for you, but because you're taking the medicine, you're not trying something else, right? So if you are taking the medication, if you're feeling cold hands and feet, if you have loss of memory, if you have fatigue, if you're overwhelmed all the time, then you know that even with the medication, your thyroid health is not optimized. So these are a few things to understand, right? So that's all I'm going to discuss for today, because I don't want to keep it too long. um, I will be hosting another talk. So we're doing Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So I'm doing this as a 3-part series. Today we talked about, is your thyroid out of balance? On Wednesday, we are going to discuss how no, understanding thyroid disorders, right? So we'll be talking about how to understand different kind of thyroid disorders from a causal perspective. So what's causing hypothyroid, what's causing hyperfunctioning of thyroid, so we're going to discuss all these on Wednesday. And on Friday at 8 o'clock, I will be sharing about foods, I will be sharing about lifestyle strategies, I will also be sharing about certain supplements, right, that you can take to balance your thyroid gland, right? So these are a few things I'm going to discuss on Friday. A few other things I'll be discussing on Wednesday. And again, before I sign off, thank you, Chitra Kaku. Thanks for attending live. Iti, thanks for watching live. Johanna, thanks for watching live. Thank you, Gifty. And again, like for those who want to protect your skin from the harsh sun in the summertime, if you like spending a lot of time outdoors and if you're worried about your skin because excess exposure to sun can make you age as well as give you spots and also create skin cancer if you're not protecting yourself well enough. So we'll be discussing all this with an amazing Ayurvedic doctor. I'll be having Dr. Swati Maske, who is going to join me on Saturday at 11 o'clock. And we have a small interview, a 30-minute interview where we are going to share the summer secrets for a great Ayurvedic skin, right? And she's going to talk about different skin types according to Ayurveda. She's going to talk about certain skin remedies and how to protect your skin, especially in the summer season. And she is an amazing doctor. She's an amazing person. She's a pretty good friend. So I'm super excited for you guys to join me. And this interview will take place on YouTube and also inside my Facebook group, Ayurveda for Health and Happiness. So I will be posting the link here, and I would love for you all to join me. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So thanks for watching live. I'm going to sign off Instagram first. Okay. And I'm going to sign off from my YouTube and Facebook as well. Before that, I have a question. So conversion is low to T3, need medication for that too. I feel well, but would love to know more ideas, on how to treat it with Ayurveda. Yeah. So thank you. Yeah. So I'll be talking about, what simple things you can do. And even if you're taking medication, right? And if you're eating lots of foods that are inflaming your thyroid and not making it function well, then you're almost counteracting the medication that you're taking. So that's why food, diet, lifestyle is extremely important. And food itself is known as the great medicine or Mahabhaishajya in Ayurveda. So it's the supreme medicine, right? Because it's forming your body, mind, your emotions, and it's what's feeding all your koshas as well. So that's what we're going to talk about. So thanks for watching live. If you have any questions, please, you can post it in the comments. If your friends or family is suffering from thyroid conditions, right? If you know somebody that either has an autoimmune thyroid condition or has a low functioning thyroid or a higher functioning, hyper functioning thyroid, you can feel free to share this video with them. So feel free to share this video. Tell them that, okay, your symptoms are still here because though you're taking the medication, it might still not be optimized for you, right? So share this video or tag them in this video, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. So thanks once again, and I'll see you all on Wednesday, 8 o'clock, same time for the second part of the thyroid series. Have a fantastic evening, and I will see you all